When the last rays of sunset fade behind the gloomy limestone mountains of prehistory and darkness falls, humanity's most primitive fear begins to awaken, the fear of nothingness and death. From the dawn of mankind, as the human brain first began to grasp the concepts of time and existence, encountering a lifeless corpse was not merely a matter of hygiene or biology. It was a doorway opening into realms of spirituality, imagination, and the earliest rituals. How did ancient people bury their dead? It is not simply a story of earth, stone, and decayed bones over thousands of years. It is a monumental, majestic chronicle recording humanity's journey to overcome fear and search for eternal life across countless civilizations on Earth. If we travel back in time hundreds of thousands of years, we encounter the first traces of ancient compassion and faith. The night of prehistory was not entirely dark as we often imagine. In the Rising Star Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered the bones of Homo naledi, an ancient ancestor with a brain only the size of an orange. They carried their deceased kin through narrow, treacherous passages tens of meters deep underground to place them in secluded stone chambers. Was this the first conscious burial behavior in human history? While debate continues, as we move into the era of Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens, the evidence becomes astonishingly clear. At Shanidar Cave in modern-day northern Iraq, a Neanderthal skeleton was found alongside massive amounts of pollen from various vibrant wildflowers like daisies, honeysuckle, and lilies. Tens of thousands of years ago, those rugged humans knew how to gather fragrant wild blossoms to cover the bodies of their loved ones. They did not simply discard a body into a void. They parted with a shadow through sorrow, embedding the belief that death was merely a sleep amidst the forest flowers. When hunter-gatherer tribes began to settle, erect villages, and plant the first seeds, perceptions of death underwent a haunting transformation. In the ancient Levant, around 9,000 years before the Common Era, Neolithic communities practiced a ritual both bizarre and profound. When a person passed away, their body was buried directly beneath the floor of the house, where the living continued to go about daily life, cooking and conversing. After some time, once the flesh had decomposed, they exhumed the grave and gently separated the skull from the skeleton. This skull was meticulously covered with a layer of clay, recreating the facial features, with eyes inlaid with glowing seashells from the Mediterranean. These reconstructed skulls were placed honorably in a corner of the home or beneath an altar. The living did not cast out the dead. They kept their ancestors within their living space, turning the deceased into guardian deities, protecting the family from bad omens and life's storms. Depending on geography and natural conditions, human thinking regarding the journey to the afterlife diverged into remarkably diverse forms. Along the coastal region of South America, in the harsh, arid Atacama Desert of present-day Chile and Peru, the Chinchorro culture created the world's oldest mummification techniques, predating the Egyptians by millennia. The Chinchorro did not reserve mummification for kings or elite classes. They mummified everyone in the community, from the elderly to infants and stillborn babies. They carefully removed internal organs and muscles, reinforced the skeleton with small wooden sticks, and stuffed clay, animal fur, and ash inside to reconstruct the body's shape. The corpse was covered in black or red clay, fitted with an intricately sculpted clay mask, and adorned with wigs made from real human hair. Magnificent pyramids or tombs never existed here, but the absolute devotion given to every deceased body proved a deep, enduring love that transcended all boundaries between life and death in the barren desert. Yet, when speaking of the art of mummification and preparation for death, no civilization can surpass the eternal fascination of ancient Egypt. To the people along the mystical Nile River, death was not an end, but an arduous journey through the underworld, duat, toward immortality. For the soul, ba, and the spirit, ka, to recognize and return to the body, the physical shell had to remain intact for thousands of years. The mummification process was a pinnacle of biology, chemistry, and spiritual ritual for its time. Mummification priests, donning the mask of the jackal-headed god Anubis, began their work by inserting a long metal hook through the nose to liquefy and extract the brain. They made a small incision on the left side of the torso to remove the internal organs, liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines, the parts most prone to decomposition. These organs were treated separately and preserved in 4 sacred canopic jars, each protected by one of the 4 sons of Horus. The heart, believed by Egyptians to be the center of intellect and emotion, was left intact inside the chest cavity. The body was then completely covered in natron salt harvested from salt lakes for 40 days to draw out every drop of moisture. Once fully dehydrated, the corpse was washed with Nile water, anointed with fragrant oils, cypress resin, and cedar oil, then meticulously wrapped in hundreds of meters of linen, wrapping each finger and toe individually. Between the linen layers, priests placed numerous protective amulets, particularly the heart scarab and the Eye of Horus. Finally, the body was placed inside a series of nested, intricately carved coffins and laid to rest in deep rock-cut tombs or grand pyramids. In the Valley of the Kings, tomb walls were covered with text from the Book of the Dead, recording spells and secret codes to guide the soul past demonic gatekeepers before entering the judgment hall of Osiris, where their heart would be weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth. While the Egyptians strived to preserve the physical form beneath the cold earth, on the other side of the continent, high upon the snow-capped peaks of Tibet, people chose an entirely opposite path, turning death into a noble offering to nature. Frozen, steel-hard soil and a scarcity of firewood on the Himalayan plateau gave rise to sky burial, or jator. The Tibetan people, steeped in Buddhist philosophy regarding impermanence and the non-attachment to the physical body, viewed the corpse after its final breath as nothing more than a worn-out garment. The body was taken to burial platforms high on mountain peaks shrouded in mist. There, body breakers known as Rojiapa performed their task, using knives to dismember the corpse and crushing the bones, mixing them with barley flour and tea to attract flocks of hungry vultures soaring overhead. Within hours, these creatures of the sky would consume the entire body. Nothing remained, no tombstone, no marker. The soul had peacefully departed, while the flesh was offered to other living beings as a final act of great compassion on earth. Parallel to the high mountain peaks, ancient civilizations across the Italian and Greek peninsulas chose to plant the memory of the dead in the ground in splendid ways. The Etruscans, precursors to Roman civilization, turned tomb complexes into literal cities of the dead. The necropolis catacombs at Cerveteri or Tarquinia were carved directly into soft tufa rock, precisely mimicking the rooms, ceiling beams, and windows of real homes. On the walls, vibrant frescoes depicted the deceased enjoying banquets, dancing to music, eating juicy grapes, and smiling alongside their life partners. The lids of their stone sarcophagi often featured carved images of husband and wife reclining together in happiness. To the Etruscans, death was not a terrifying obsession, but merely an endless banquet where human beings continued to enjoy earthly pleasures in another realm. As the Roman Empire rose to the height of its power, cremation became the preferred choice for the aristocracy and royalty. Massive pyres were erected on the outskirts of the city, where flesh was turned to ash in towering flames. Once the fire died down, the ashes were doused with red wine, carefully gathered, and placed inside exquisite ceramic, glass, or marble urns. These urns were kept in columbaria, large underground vaults featuring thousands of small wall niches resembling dovecotes. However, as Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire from the 2nd to the 4th centuries, the belief in the bodily resurrection completely transformed this practice. Cremation was gradually replaced by inhumation, leading to the creation of the vast catacombs, a labyrinthine network of underground burial tunnels stretching hundreds of kilometers beneath Rome. Millions of believers were buried in narrow wall niches along dark passages where flickering oil lamps illuminated symbols of fish, olive branches, and prayers for eternal peace. Heroism and a deep connection to the ocean shaped the unique burial rituals of the Vikings in the icy Nordic regions. The sea and ships were the lifeblood, sustenance, and ultimate home of Viking warriors. When a chieftain or noble warrior passed away, ancients believed they needed a vessel to cross the waves of death and enter Valhalla, the paradise of heroes ruled by Odin. The body was laid upon a longship surrounded by weapons, armor, treasures, horses, hounds, and sometimes voluntary servants sacrificed to serve their master in the afterlife. In some regions, the ship was set adrift on calm sea waters and ignited with flaming arrows, creating a brilliant flare against the ocean's darkness before sinking into the deep. More common in archaeological findings, however, was the practice of ship burial on land. The vessel containing the body and grave goods was buried deep in the earth, over which a massive mound was raised, surrounded by stones arranged in the shape of a longship. Though the wooden ships rotted over time, their outlines in the soil remain a testament to the eternal quest of the ocean's children to set sail. Turning toward the east, one cannot overlook the eerie and majestic mysteries of ancient Chinese imperial tombs, where absolute power was extended beyond death itself. The pinnacle of this obsession was the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang in Xi'an. Obsessed with immortality, the first emperor to unify China mobilized over 700,000 laborers over 4 decades to construct a massive underground city. Inside the unexcavated tomb lies a miniature universe. The ceiling is inlaid with pearls to mimic the night sky and stars, while below, a map of China features the Yellow and Yangtze rivers flowing with liquid mercury, powered by secret mechanical systems. To protect the emperor in eternity, an army of over 8,000 life-size terracotta soldiers, each with a unique, non-repeating facial expression, was buried alongside horses and real weaponry. The terracotta army has stood ready for battle for over 2 millennia, silently guarding the tyrant's slumber deep within the earth. Beyond royalty, even the nobility during the Han Dynasty reached strange heights in their desire to preserve the body. Archaeological discoveries at the tombs of Liu Sheng and Dao Wan revealed jade burial suits, garments made entirely from thousands of small, meticulously cut jade plaques sewn together with gold, silver, or copper wire. The ancient Chinese believed jade possessed supernatural energy that could prevent decay and keep the soul from escaping. Similarly, in the case of Lady Dai, Xin Zhui, of the Han Dynasty, her body was immersed in a mysterious mineral fluid, wrapped in 20 layers of fine silk and enclosed within 4 nested coffins sealed with tons of white clay and charcoal. After more than 2,000 years deep underground, her skin remained elastic and her joints pliable, posing a riddle that continues to puzzle modern medical science. In another corner of Asia, ancient peoples found rest high on sheer cliff faces. Hanging coffins, a practice of the ancient Bo people in southern China and in Sagada, Philippines, remain an enigma challenging modern researchers. Solid wooden coffins weighing hundreds of kilograms were carved from ancient trees, then transported and suspended from vertical cliffs tens of meters above ground or water. What complex systems of pulleys and ropes did the ancients use to lift these massive wooden blocks to heights seemingly accessible only to birds? Behind this incredible engineering lay a simple yet powerful belief. Hanging coffins high above brought the deceased closer to heaven, kept the body safe from wild beasts and ground moisture, allowing the soul to freely gaze upon the clouds and protect their descendants from above. Alongside cliffs in the deep earth, water, the source of life, also served as a sacred realm where ancient humans entrusted the physical body. In ancient Southeast Asia, including prehistoric cultures in Vietnam, boat burials and bronze drum burials left profound cultural imprints. Coffins shaped like canoes carved from large tree trunks were buried with numerous bronze tools, weapons, and pottery. The boat was not only a familiar, everyday tool for riverine communities, but also a vessel transporting the soul across spiritual rivers back to the ancestral realm. Burying the dead with all their personal belongings, jewelry, and working tools reflected a genuine faith. In the next world, the deceased would continue working, hunting, weaving, and living just as they had on Earth. Reverence for the dead was also dramatically expressed through megalithic stone structures across the coasts of Europe and Asia during the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. Dolmens, constructed from giant upright stone slabs acting as walls topped with a flat capstone, have stood for thousands of years as eternal fortresses guarding the remains of tribal leaders. In Ireland, the Newgrange Monument was built even before the Pyramids of Giza. Once a year, on the winter solstice, early morning sunlight enters a precisely calculated aperture above the entrance, illuminating the deep, dark burial chamber within. That moment when light pierces the darkness symbolizes rebirth, a promise from the universe that death is not an eternal night, but merely the starting point of a new cycle of light. As time passes, civilizations may fade and empires may vanish beneath the dust of history, but the burial customs of ancient peoples remain the truest mirror reflecting the essence of humanity. From wildflowers strewn on stone graves in prehistory, fragrant linen shrouds on the Nile, ships burning at sea, coffins suspended on misty cliffs, to underground tombs shimmering with mercury, all share a single primitive voice. Ancient peoples did not bury their dead because they loved death, but because they cherished life. It was humanity's most desperate yet beautiful effort to hold on to memory, deny nothingness, and build a bridge connecting our finite world with the vast eternity of the cosmos.